You ready? All right. Well, we're kicking off our Unreal Engine live stream special event live from the floor at GDC.
Live from GDC.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm still not sure that anybody can hear me when I speak, so hopefully, right? Hopefully the folks who are watching the stream can hear us okay, because I can't really hear me, but that's okay.
Just keep shouting.
Yeah, I'll just keep shouting.
But really quickly, I'm going to be your host, Amanda Bott. I'm the community manager or one of the community managers for Unreal Engine. And with me I have the wonderful Zak Parrish, who's a senior DevRel tech artist.
Senior
How many
developer relations technical artist. I have the longest title ever. My business card scrolls.
It's scroll. Oh,
yeah.
That's fancy. Anyway, so we're going to briefly recap some of our announcements from the week, some of the really exciting things that we've seen going on or that we showed during our State of Unreal keynote yesterday. And then we're going to have a number of incredible developers, and we're going to be interviewing with them. We'll have NVIDIA, Intel, Magic Leap, and a lot of the cool folks in our other booth that include PolyArc Games, White Paper Games. We also have the Arc guys.
Oh yeah, actually, we got a lot of our licensees have games playing over at our other booth. Definitely worth checking out. Gonna give a shout out to Astroneer that I've been totally addicted to for the last, I don't know, year of my life.
Yeah, and they're pretty amazing. I got to talk to Adam when he came in. It was super awesome.
It's amazing.
All right, so starting with some of the sweet announcements we've made this week, we released the Paragon assets. There were over 20 character packs and an environment pack, including Monolith and Agora assets. So you have some of your characters such as Mural, Fang Mao, FaZe, Sevarog. And what we really love about that is they set up Shinbi, one of the characters, and that has all the animation blueprints set up, so you can actually see how to set up all those other characters. And we'll be doing a live stream next week. Jay Hosfeld has kindly agreed to join us, and he's going to be walking through the process of how to get those set up. So if you don't want to just grab Shinbi and dig through the files, he's going to show you how to do that thing.
Right. There's a lot more of that coming, and it's just going to get better and better because we're going to have... Oh, I'm going to trade mics. check.
Microphones. But yeah.
Hello. Ah.
There you go.
Is this better?
We found your voice.
Okay. I found my voice. Hello, welcome back. So the Paragon stuff is really exciting. There's a lot more Paragon content that's going to drop over time. There's a lot of changes to the engine that'll come in later on that'll start to integrate more of the features that you saw in Paragon. That's going to be brought natively into the engine, so animating those characters is going to be a lot easier. A lot of really exciting stuff on the way, and I'm thrilled to see Paragon live on and hopefully see what everybody makes into it. Like, take that and put it in your own games. Relive Paragon in your own way. We're really excited to see what comes out of that.
Yeah, there's tons of cool content, VFX, all that stuff. And we're, by summer, I think we're trying to get the rest of it out.
Hello. Yeah, okay, so they turned me way up.
Life is always an adventure. Wow. So, also on Monday, we announced the Magic Leap. We have support for Magic Leap 1 Creators Edition, and so we're going to support their SDK. You can jump into the engine, start creating for their new HMDs setup, and then we also have a unique editor that we built just for that, so you can dive in and really get going there.
Yep, super excited about Magic Leap.
It's a lot of really cool stuff, and they're going to be on later, and so we can dive in a little deeper with what that means for you as a developer. Our State of Unreal yesterday.
That was huge.
It was so amazing. Did you all have a chance to watch it? No?
If you haven't, be sure to check out the State of Unreal, our keynote yesterday. It's up on YouTube now.
Yeah.
A lot of new stuff was covered. A lot of great new features added to the engine. I was blown away. I work at Epic, and the stuff that I saw, I was just like, oh my god, I didn't even know we could do that.
I was sitting backstage and was like, what's happening?
Showed off real-time ray tracing. We showed off a lot of digital human stuff.
Yes.
We showed off a section with Andy Serkis, who did a live performance that we brought right into Unreal with no tweaking to his animation whatsoever. In fact, you can actually see that over on the side of our booth. You can see the Andy Serkis playback. You can actually manipulate it, zoom in on his face, look at the fine detail, all the way down to the peach fuzz on his cheek. You can also check out the Siren character over there and 3 Lateral's Osiris character, who's using Andy Serkis's animation, brought straight in, no adjustments made at all. They just applied Andy Serkis's animation right to the rig, and it's super believable. It's just incredible to see. If you haven't seen it, go around the corner and check it out. If you're viewing from home, be sure to watch the videos over and over and over and over again.
And then some. But yeah. So that video, like if you want to watch State of Unreal, we actually have it live on our blog as well, so go check it out, and that full replay's there. For Fortnite, we also have announced, or we're bringing record and replay into Engine. So if you want to set up those kinds of systems in your games, you're going to be able to do that. And then that way, your players are going to be able to share all their live experiences on social, because that's how you do it nowadays, right? You build this big community, and you're like, hey, look at this sweet YouTube video, and this is this awesome thing I did in game. Now you're going to be able to do that.
That was actually really awesome at the keynote. We brought Ali A on.
Yeah.
And so a famous streamer. We actually got him to work with us to build his own little trailer from his gameplay experiences using our replay system. And that's the kind of power we want to give people. You can just take the amazing things that you do in Fortnite and in other Unreal Engine games and just expose those out to the public.
Super amazing. We had some announces. Arc was like, hey, we're bringing Arc to Switch. Then we got to show amazing things from Concrete Genie was on stage. The game just looks so beautiful.
Oh, I'm blown away by Concrete Genie.
And it's just like, what we love is seeing these small teams being able to do so much. Like tiny, tiny teams. And they're like, man, look at these giant things they're able to create. And we're always blown away by our community.
It's so exciting to see what other people are doing with the engine, things we didn't even know the Unreal Engine could do. And they're actually day by day, they're teaching us things that the technology can do that we just had no idea.
We're like, oh, why didn't we think of that? Okay. And additionally, with all the Fortnite stuff going on, we're doing improved crossplay. So you're able to set up or cross progression. You're setting up for multiple platforms or all platforms. And, that gives you a larger audience and hopefully makes it easier to just spread the good word of your games. And
just the ability to play with your friends is huge.
Yeah, wherever they are,
yeah,
no matter where they're at. We also had a number of tech talks yesterday. So after our amazing keynote, we had a lot of wonderful dev engineers come on. So we were talking about cinematic lighting in Unreal Engine, creating believable characters, optimizing Fortnite, both for taking it from 30 FPS to 60 FPS. Words are hard, man.
60 frames per second, 60 FPS.
Thank you. Thank you for giving
60 hertz. You can say 60 hertz.
I could.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we just really want to make sure you have a great experience across all consoles, and then so if you're bringing that up to the 60 frames per second, an improved experience for all your players, and then again it's shipping across all those platforms, and then programmable VFX with Niagara.
Niagara.
So that's the big. Everybody's been waiting for it.
I can't wait. I can't wait till everybody finally gets to see Niagara. It's really exciting. The stuff that we're doing with that is just mind-blowing. It's going to change the way you look at VFX. It's actually a lot more like the type of control you're used to seeing in high-end particle DCC apps like maybe Maya or Houdini, just brought into real time in Unreal. It's super exciting, and you guys will get to see it and play with it yourselves very soon.
Yeah, I know people have been waiting a long time, and I felt like every live stream I had, someone in the comments was like, when's Niagara? When's Niagara?
Well, I still remember that first time we made the initial code changes that showed something called Niagara, and it was immediately straight from GitHub. You're like, what's Niagara? What's Niagara? What is that?
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it? Yeah. So those are all available. They'll be available in the next day or two. So if you're able to watch them live yesterday, they've all been recorded. They'll go up on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to take full advantage of those. You
have to check out the real-time ray tracing demo that we did with NVIDIA. It'll blow your mind. The fact that is taking place in anything even approaching real time it'll blow your mind. The more you know about ray tracing and actually rendering out real soft shadows, the more fascinating it'll become.
And we'll actually, right after you depart from us, not permanently.
After they kick me off the stage
NVIDIA
for
will
talking
be coming on,
too much.
And then they'll actually get to learn more about all that ray tracing beautifulness. So.
It's awesome.
Make sure to look at those. We also have a lot of talks going on in the Learning Theater.
Yeah.
So this is a unique event.
Where our studio audience is currently seated.
Yes.
So yeah, we've got 5 different talks that we're giving on a rotating basis here in the Learning Theater throughout GDC. So we have one over Maya Live Link, so how you can directly connect Maya directly to the Unreal Engine. So as you are making any changes to a character, even just scrubbing the timeline and watching that playback will take place live in Unreal, which is a great way to test out your animations before you actually import them over and bring them in. We have a talk over volumetric fog and how that has been added to the engine, how you can make really beautiful, dense, self-shadowing fog that is I'm surprised we can actually do it in real time, but you should definitely swing by and check out Stewart. He's going to talk all about that. We have another one over our new material layering system. It's going to totally change the way you build editable materials in Unreal. It's kind of like taking Photoshop's layer system and applying it to materials inside of Unreal. So you can just completely replace, swap out, or make changes to materials in a much more modular way than you ever could before. Let's see, who else do we have?
We have the building high-end gameplay effects.
Oh, yeah. So Chris Murphy is actually coming all the way in from Australia, righted himself back up the other way, and he's going to be talking about building high-end visual effects using Blueprint. So he's doing some really clever things with render targets. So he's got this laser from the sky that is going to come down
laser
and burn the ground and make lava and burn away grass. He's going to show you how to hook up the whole thing inside of like 20 minutes. So really fascinating stuff. And then I'm actually giving a talk over Fortnite's lighting. So all of the tools and the techniques that we added to make lighting possible in Fortnite. So lots of cool things to talk about. Be sure to swing back by. All of this stuff is getting streamed out. In fact, some of it has streamed out already.
Yes.
But we'll be streaming that out throughout the show. So yeah, lots of really cool stuff.
We'll repost all those later as well. So if you don't have a chance to catch them, but this way you can actually walk up to them and be like, hey, I have questions. Like,
oh yeah, if you have questions along the way, please, if you see me and I'm not on stage with a mic in my hand, please feel free to come up and ask me anything you want. Happy to help out every way we can.
But yeah, that's the advantage of coming and sitting here for the tech talks or the learning theater talks. You can come in and actually pester these guys because they're a wealth of knowledge, and we want you to make sure to extract it from their brains.
Just here, happy to help, and excited to see what you guys are going to do with Unreal Engine 4.
And then, so those will be going on all day after the live stream and then tomorrow. And we also want to we're super pumped. If you haven't been able to visit, we have a second booth this year. It's right past the PlayStation booth. It's our Unreal Games Jobs beer booth. We're really thrilled to be celebrating all of our community and Unreal Engine developers. There's over 25 games from all over the globe that have come in on a number of different platforms. We're so excited for all of them, and it's just incredible. And there's also cookies and beer after one. So
I keep messing up the name of that booth because it's Games Jobs Beer. I keep wanting to just call it the fun booth because it's completely covered in bean bags and sofas and video games and beer and popcorn. It's like every time I walk by, I get another box of popcorn because like that smell just pulls you in. Then you play Astroneer for half an hour, and then you go over and play Ark, and then like glance at Fortnite, then go play something else. It's been, actually, and speaking of which, if you haven't seen the mechanical bull llama that we have over at that booth, you should check it out. If you can beat my time, I'll be really impressed. I think I made it like 3-4 seconds. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Incredible. Yeah. But yeah, definitely make sure they're really wonderful. Go talk to those people. There's some of our UE4 teams, like the community devs are recruiting, and then we also have recruiters from Epic. So if you want to go say hi, there's tons of people just hanging out, and we definitely want you to go talk to them. So that's it for our time together.
Is this where you get the hook out?
Yeah.
You know the hook?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Well,
I need you to stand up first.
Okay.
And then
well, thanks everyone, and I will see you all around GDC. For those of you who are watching the stream, you'll probably see me a couple more times giving talks, and we'll see you around.
Yeah, so next up, thank you so much. Next up we have Jerome, Platteaux, and Ignacio, Llamas. They worked on the Reflections demo. We're going to show that trailer, which is a beautiful real-time rendering or ray tracing demo. Man, you guys are so fast. Welcome.
Hi.
Oh.
Do you have a microphone? I don't have a microphone.
Is there not one in that seat? Did Zak walk away with it? Oh, they stole the microphone.
I guess we're going to share.
We're going to play, hopefully, the Reflections demo so you can see what these two have been up to. So Jerome actually is at Epic Games, and he's one of our art directors.
Yep.
And does a lot of amazing, fantastic art. And then Ignacio is joining us from NVIDIA, and he's the senior manager of real-time rendering software. Sorry that you can't, tell us about it.
Hello.
Okay. So welcome.
Thank you.
So could we see the Reflections cinematic? Maybe. All right. Well, do you want to talk about it a little bit? So introduce yourselves. You know, I've mentioned your titles and stuff, but like exactly what did you do for this demo?
Sure. So I'm the art director. So what does that mean is I'm kind of running the dailies and then kind of being the bridge between the art team and the...
Here we go.
Oh, here you go. Let's watch it first.
You think she heard us? Yeah, I think she heard us. At least we blend in for once.
So tell us what, so back to,
So
like, what were you each doing for
back
this
to
demo?
the process. So the idea is, so it's a project that we did in collaboration with NVIDIA and ILMX Lab. And the idea was to show off the new Raytrace rendering in Unreal Engine. So the guys in NVIDIA put that a new API, and then we integrated that. So it's a prototype, so it's not in engine, and it's a kind of a glimpse into the future of what we could do. So don't expect that in the near future. But the idea is to be able to kind of show off. So the best way to show off that was thinking like what character that we have in bank, and then also who could help us to put that together. So ILM came up with the idea of showing off Phasma.
Yeah.
I think she's probably the best character to show off the reflection after C3PO, because she's full of chrome, so you can see all the reflection and the distortion going on her. And then for the Stormtrooper, I think they are great too because they show off the nice AO because they have a white armor, so it's a good-looking AO under the chin and all that. So we put that together, and then the idea was to stay kind of like a very fun. Like we didn't want to take us too seriously, so the director Gavin came up with the idea of us doing something in an elevator, kind of like make fun of two Stormtroopers. So that was the whole pitch. And then so when we put that together, we contacted Lucasfilm, and they say, yeah, sure, let's do that. And then we're gonna help you through the process. And then when we were agree on everything, then we had the NVIDIA guys helping the integration of the API in Unreal Engine.
So,
Yeah, I can tell you a bit more about that. All right. Yeah, I can talk a bit more to that, to the technical aspect. So we've been working on Raytracing technology at NVIDIA for a decade, and I and my team have been working on experimenting with Raytracing in game engines like Unreal for a while. So we realized some time back that this was starting to become feasible. So we started experimenting with Unreal, and then we approached Epic for this collaboration to show what was possible. And I have to say it's been a really great experience working with you guys. The technology that we have involved. All right, that's too loud. The technology we have in Volta we call RTX. It's our optimized implementation of Microsoft's DirectX ray tracing API. So what we integrated into the engine is this API, and it's then we provided really fast implementation underneath. Then we've also provided a lot of the technology that we use to denoise the ray tracing results, because you cannot have the level of ray tracing performance required to generate the number of rays a film quality frame requires today. So we only have a budget of a few rays per pixel per frame, which means that we need to use sophisticated denoising techniques to get that level of quality, which much less work. So we also worked for a while on that, and we actually, thanks to Jerome and his team, we improved them a lot because they are really demanding artists. They know where everything should be and what everything should be looking like. So it was great to have that experience to bring it to the next level. And yeah, I'm really impressed how good it looks after all that effort. It didn't look that good in the beginning.
These things always take time. So what are some of the implications of being able to ray trace in real time as opposed to not real time?
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, as an engineer, I might not be the best person to speak to that. Maybe you should tell me what you feel it is that it is going to give you guys as an artist.
So Raytracing has been, it's a technique that's been used in the movie industry for a long time. And so the idea was to actually bring the same quality that we get from the movies inside Unreal Engine and enjoy that in real time. So the big things for us is we've been faking the area light. So the way we do soft shadow in Unreal Engine right now is either we blur the texture, we blur the shadow, and then you get some artifact going on, or it's actually doing a grid of light. But that means it's very costly. So the idea is to come up with something that actually is physically correct, and then the only way to actually do that is to use ray tracing. So we actually trace each point, from the shape to the ground, and see that the penumbra being soft. So when you change the size of the light or the shape of the light, you can see the shadow changing shape. So that's very important. And then the other big thing that we improved is the texture area light. So right now, as you can see on top of the head, they had some texture, like the lights has some sort of like shape and pattern in it, and you can see that in the reflection now. And then so as I was talking about, the shadow area light is a big deal. So you can have a lot more soft shadow, because that's the thing we do on set. So you want to have a nicer soft shadow, a nicer bounce, and then they place cards around the characters to show that. And then of course everything is dynamic, so that as you can see here, it's like everything is updated in real time. And then another big thing that we have now that we have Raytrace is we have Raytrace ambient occlusion. So that instead of having it baked like we used to have, so now that the character, when he moves and when he places his arm in front of his chest, now you have the ambient occlusion in front of the chest. You don't have to bake it anymore. It's coming live. And then we also have the reflection, which is a big deal for Raytrace. This is where you show up the most. So as you can see, the entire environment is reflected in the character, and then that means like when the environment is updated, the reflection is getting updated too. And as Ignacio was mentioning before, is with all the denoising research that they did, that we can now afford glossy reflection also. So it's great to see. Usually that's a technique that is very expensive, and then also brings so much noise that when you can avoid it, you don't use it. When you cannot use it, you try to avoid it. Basically, now it's almost for free, so we take advantage of that.
Awesome, thank you. So obviously this is a big technique that like now it changes kind of the quality that we can bring to gaming, right? Like, how do you feel like this will affect developers in the future?
Well, I think there's a lot of people who start to think like, hey, what if we do maybe some background visual effects directly in Unreal Engine, or even doing like more TV show that looks even more realistic, or and then it's going to bring it's just going to bring an overall quality to the game or to the cinematic. So that's what we always try to do, is try to get to the best quality as we can.
All right.
So do you think how do you think it's going to affect visual production workflows, for example? Like you guys showed the process that you follow with this demo, and I thought that was very interesting. I actually didn't get to see that until near the end, so I was very impressed.
So yeah, the idea is like, since we have the Unreal Engine, everything is running real time. The goal was to use kind of like the VR headset. So let me take it back. So basically, we try to prototype the entire experience or the entire cinematic, and we didn't have actor yet. So the goal was to have the director, Gavin, who was kind of taking the motion capture suit and then acting each character. And then the way he was doing it, he was putting a headset and visualizing the entire environment and the other actor or the other character. And he was performing one character and then reacting to another one, and then going to the other one and reacting to the first one, and then it's kind of like iterating this way, and then refining the pace of the piece. So the good thing is he was doing it in VR, so he was positioning himself correctly and reacting at the correct time. So once that was done, then we get all the motion capture data, all that together, and then we start to render the final piece. And then, of course, because it's real time, we can iterate a lot faster. That's the big deal also, compared to the regular movie. every frame takes sometimes like 12 hours. It takes a long time, and then so the iteration process is a lot slower. So having that in real time, you can actually adjust the lighting, adjust the camera, adjust the performance as fast as you can, as quickly as you can. Compared to something where it goes to the render farm, come back the day after, go to comp, look at dailies. It's just a way faster process.
That's fantastic. Now, I know you all were on the Tech Talk together for cinematic lighting. Does that relate to some of the stuff going on in this demo here, and how that your cinematic lighting Tech Talk that you did together,
Yes.
were a lot of those techniques used in this demo as well?
Do you want to talk about this?
Yes, are you referring to a talk we did yesterday? Yes, we covered in reasonable detail pretty much all the techniques that we use in the demo. So it's a lot of what Jerome just mentioned. I don't know if you mentioned maybe a few things, but yeah, you touched on all the important ones, I think. So.
Yeah, so if you had more questions about at least how this demo is working, at least from a lighting perspective, the Tech Talk yesterday would give you some insight on how to light and set up a scene similar to that.
Right, that
To some
talk will
degree.
be available online as well?
Yeah, so that
Okay.
talk will be online. We mentioned it in the next day or two, that you'll be able to check that out. So.
Perfect. Right.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you both for joining us so much.
Thank you, our pleasure.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your GDC. Thank you, thank you. So next up, we will have Rio Caraeff, and the Chief Content Officer from Magic Leap, and Nick Whiting, our Technical Director for XR from Epic Games. So thank you both so much for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh,
Great to be here.
nope, secret mics. Can we?
Hello. Hi. It's great to be here. Thank you.
Hey, now it works.
Yes,
Awesome.
all the voices. So, again, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to start off with you, Rio. So you co-founded Vivo, and you previously have had a long career in music and media. So what made you take the leap, if you will, to Magic Leap?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, my whole career has been about the intersection of entertainment, content, experiences, and technology. So, after nearly 20 years in music and film and TV, I really just wanted to do something new, get uncomfortable, kind of, if you will, and so, but contribute my life experiences, but really focus on what can I do with Magic Leap, right? What does Magic Leap do for my friends and family? How does it make me more entertained, more productive, more informed about the world around me? And so I really, for me, it was the motivation to do that and to be a part of something, ultimately that we think is the next wave of computing.
That's great. So what goals are you trying to accomplish, or problems are you trying to solve at Magic Leap?
Well, what we're trying to do at Magic Leap is essentially create, a fusion of human-centric, what we call spatial computing. It's really the digital world and the physical world seamlessly and persistently integrated in a way that is amplifies the the human condition and the human spirit. So it's about making you and the world around you essentially your underlying computing platform. So that's what we're trying to do. It starts with developers and creators. It starts with Unreal developers. It starts with essentially the community of 3D developers who want to put their fingerprints on the world and work with our platform to do so. So that's really what we're here to do and what we're trying to accomplish.
That's awesome. So you all have announced that the Magic Leap 1 will come out later this year. So would you all like to talk a little about the device?
Of course. Yeah, this was a big week for us as we launched our creator portal, essentially to public developers around the world. We've been working with developers for the past year to get feedback and to make the company better and our product better for all developers. We've announced that we're shipping in 2018, and Magic Leap 1 Creators Edition is a lightweight, head-mounted wearable, right, which essentially has sensors which see the world and allows you to stick pixels into the world.
Yeah.
and a range of inputs, from gestures to eye tracking to 6 degrees of freedom controller, and even more. So it allows developers and creators and users to really have the type of experience that they could never have before on a television, on a tablet, on a phone. It's really incredible.
Okay. And so what do you feel sets the Magic Leap one apart from other devices that are currently available?
I think from our point of view, it's really about making you, the center of your computing experience. It's not about something in your pocket or something that divorces or disconnects you from the world. It's about making you more connected to your friends and family, making you more connected to your home, to your office, to the people, places, and things that surround you. So I think what differentiates us more than anything is our philosophy that humans, are essentially what everything orbits around. Mm-hmm. It's not about taking you away from humanity. It's about connecting you to people, connecting you to the physical world. It's about amplifying, your inner 10-year-old and making you feel like you have superpowers and X-ray vision. And it's really, I think it's that spirit of the company that anything you can ever imagine can be real and can be possible. That's really, I think, what differentiates us at the heart of the culture and the product.
That's awesome. That's incredible. So we're actually really excited. So, we had a big announcement on Monday. We're supporting the SDK and engine and have this unique getter. So what does that look like for our developers, Nick?
So with the release on Monday, we actually did a lot of planning in order to make the Magic Leap platform as accessible as possible to as many developers as possible. So for one of the first times that we've had a day-and-date release, we've actually done a binary version on the launcher, so people can just download it directly and start playing immediately after they register on the Magic Leap site and pull down the SDK. So we really wanted to make that as frictionless as possible for people. And we also wanted to give people a chance to play around with some of the new features that the engine has gotten as a result from working with Magic Leap, like the eye tracking that he had mentioned and the meshing data from the world. For the first time in Unreal, you can really start to get detailed information about the world around you. And we think that there's a lot of exciting possibilities for reskinning your world to be a castle or a sci-fi spaceship and stuff like that. But there's a lot of sticky design problems around that. And part of the fun of having a new device like this is that people can experiment with how is the best way to do that. Mm-hmm. So for the past few months, we've been experimenting with how do we take all this data that we get in and do something cool with it. So we're hoping that by releasing a binary version and the full source code, as we always do with Unreal, that people can really kind of take the ball and run with it.
And so they can go to the launcher and download it, but there's also a unique editor, right?
We extended Unreal Editor to have all the features in there. With Unreal, we like to kind of unify concepts within the editor. So when you're using a head-mounted display, the camera moves the same way. It's a very consistent experience. So people that are used to developing for VR and AR in Unreal already should be able to get their feet wet with Magic Leap immediately because we use all the same kind of interfaces. And then we've started to add more interfaces on as new unique capabilities of the device have been added. So it's really helped kind of push the engine technology forward along with the hardware itself.
So obviously, if they want to start playing with it, they'll need to be able to get one. How will developers be able to get their hands on one of the Magic Leap ones?
Well, the first step is to register as a developer at our creator portal at magicleap.com. And then from there, you can start your journey. You can get going with our SDK, with Unreal. You can get started with documentation, with tutorials, with community. And then as we launch Magic Leap to developers in 2018, our creators will be the first to hear about it and the first to have the chance to get it this year.
Now, we've also built a sample project, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. That's another thing that we tried to do to help people get it, available out of the box.
Right. So what kind of things are in the sample project, or can developers expect to see that they can dig around and play with there?
Sure. So if you go to the Unreal Engine website, there's a whole blog post that actually kind of walks you through it, which is a nice thing. We really wanted to give something people can kind of destruct and play around with a little bit. So we have scenes with how to use eye tracking. We have the kite scene that we released a couple GDCs ago. We put that in there and let you kind of blow into the microphone to control the wind where the boy is going. We show you how to use gestures, and we tried to make it as simple as possible so people can really see fundamentally how it works, and then hopefully kind of take the bits that we've put in there and then replace it with their own as quickly as possible. So we really wanted to give some people a place to start.
That's awesome. So what kinds of things are developers going to be able to do that you don't feel like they've been able to do previously? So is there new kinds of experiences or new kind of developments? Like what advantages does this have for our developers?
Well, I'll touch on it. You know, again, when the world is your computing platform, and you can mesh, you know, all of the people, places, and things around you, you can create anything that your imagination, you know, can come up with. So you can focus on, you know, powerful communications applications. You know, how do I create applications that allow, you know, me to be, you know, a stormtrooper, and, you know, my wife to be Princess Leia, and we're separated by thousands of miles, but we're in the same room together. Or how am I more productive, and how do I design rocket engines with teams in different countries? How do I, you know, explore medical imaging and other types of 3D applications? So it's really powerful stuff when you can seamlessly and persistently get the digital world integrated into your physical world. You know, you've never been able to do that on any other platform.
I'm really excited to see what people are going to come up with and develop for this. One for you, Nick. What it has been like developing for some such cutting-edge hardware? And
it's been a lot of fun. You know, this is the first wearable AR device that we've been able to support in Unreal. So as we do with all the other technologies, as we were building up support for VR, one of our favorite things to do is actually get in there and let our designers play around with it, and kind of touching on the same things that Rio was talking about. The ability to kind of share a shared hallucination with somebody else in the same room is a really kind of powerful concept. You know, looking at something that doesn't actually exist in the real world, but both of you can kind of see the same thing and interact with it. It's been a lot of fun just to play around with. We've had some crazy ideas. Some are really stupid, and some are really cool.
Like what? Give us some examples of your silly fun ideas.
We can't spoil the fun.
I do like the phrase shared hallucinations. Like,
we didn't coin that, but we stole it. We've appropriated it.
That's a good one. No, that's awesome. And so it's really neat to see where we're kind of going, and technology is expanding so quickly and rapidly, like all the different ways we can take advantage of it. So what's your vision for the future of spatial computing? Like, where do you think we'll keep going, and what kinds of experiences do you think we'll see, you know, in the next 6 months, year?
Yeah, I think, you know, we have a long and interesting vision for spatial computing and Magic Leap, but we're really trying to also stay focused and true, you know, to what matters most right now, which is to serve our customers, the developers, the creators. You know, we really think that that's where it starts. And as Magic Leap turns, you know, from being a company that's been in development, building its product and its technology, it's now turning to face the market. It's turning to understand its customer and really be focused on developers, really be focused on creators. And so I can talk about, you know, where do we see the world looking like in 2025, and how does this work in sports stadiums and museums, and everybody, you know, essentially having an entirely new world, you know, upon them. But I also want to be, you know, grounded kind of in where we are today, which is that big things, you know, start small, and it's really important for us to, you know, work closely with Unreal Engine, work closely with the 3D creator community, and really listen to that customer and make our product better for them. And then we earn the right, you know, then we establish the credibility to serve a larger set of customers over time. But for me, a developer is a creator, but a creator doesn't always have to be a developer. And that gives us a license and an envelope to grow and expand. Yeah.
Awesome. And what do you think?
Yeah. Sure. I think it's really exciting right now because we're kind of I'm getting the same feeling that I did, you know, about 6 years ago when we started to get the first modern VR prototypes, where we're kind of on the cusp of something that's a new way of interacting with, you know, digital content. And, you know, if this past 6 years have taught us nothing, it's that there's a creative explosion that's, you know, just a year or two kind of down the road of people doing things that we would have never have thought of, and things that we would have thought, oh, that's a crazy idea, but actually works out and is super compelling. If you would have told me 6 years ago we'd be ripping robots apart in VR, right? I was like, that sounds really dumb, but now it's actually really fun.
You're like, man, I really love doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think we're kind of in store for the same part as the technology comes out and more people start to get their hands on it. People are going to start doing crazy things, and I can't wait to see what actually ends up sticking.
You look like a little kid. You're just like, oh, so
I'm
ready.
super excited.
That's all the questions I had for you. Do you have any comments you want to make about the products you've been working on, or the projects you've been working on, or?
I think I'll close, and I'll say that again we're very thankful for our partnership with Unreal and Epic and all of the developers that we work with who are realizing their dreams. We announced with you guys earlier this week. We're working with ILMX Lab, we're working with Framestore, we're working with Wingnut, and also with Shell Games. All kind of Unreal Engine partners, all working on Magic Leap early access hardware. So thank you.
All right.
Yeah, we're super excited to see what everybody starts doing now that we can actually give it out to people.
It's like, here, take it, make all the things.
Exactly. And, I just want to say thanks to all the folks on the Magic Leap side, all your talented engineers that have been working with every day for the past few months getting ready for this. So.
Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. Next up, we have the White Paper Games guys, where they're going to be talking about the occupation. To the trailer of the occupation. All right, so we're going to take a look at the trailer while these guys get situated. Maybe. I hope so. So, we might have the trailer for the occupation, but real quickly, did you sit in order? Oh, here we go. Take a look.
You, Mr. Big-Time Journalist. Finally got a real story. Right. Keep your head down.
But that is for the country to decide. With immigration at the heart of this debate, and so many opposing the change, is it...
Scarlet, what did you do? I understand we didn't see eye to eye, but I never thought you'd go this far.
How dare you put this on me? The people need to know that their government is lying to them.
The people on our doorstep want to hurt us. There's rioting in the streets, for God's sake.
Just know I'm going to do anything in my power to stop you.
You can't see this right now, but you don't have another choice here.
Charles, what the hell have you done?
Hello. Okay. So I want to welcome, we have Pete, James, and Oliver, all from White Paper Games with us. So would you like to go down the line and sort of just introduce yourselves and what you do at White Paper Games?
Sure. So I do most of the game design, narrative design, and just day-to-day running of the studio.
So I'm a tech artist and also did the character art and rigging and all that stuff for the occupation.
I'm the environment artist and I work mainly on creating the worlds and the lighting of the occupation.
Awesome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of White Paper Games?
Sure. So we founded around 2012 and released our first game, Ether 1, in 2014. We're a small team of 5 that quickly grew to 6, and then now we're a team of 10 working on our next game, The Occupation.
So what is it like being a small studio?
Hard.
Hard.
It just means that you have to essentially try and cover as many bases as you can for the most part for us. So we can't just focus on one specific task at a time. We have to kind of multitask in a lot of the jobs that we do. But it also means that communication's super easy, and just the ability to talk to anyone in the team that you might need to work with is super straightforward, which makes I think more focused game.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking a little bit about this today, and like I said before, we're a team of 5 with no programmer to start off with, and so Unreal was the natural choice. We were using UE3 Kismet stuff, and we had no programmer for maybe a year, and the day-to-day running, you do 17 different things as the people on the team, and it's kind of a natural progression now growing to 10 people. You do less and less and start specializing more, so it's kind of useful for the kind of student independent teams coming up using Unreal to kind of double down on their focus, but know they need to do a bunch of different things whilst running the studio for then the next game to then start specializing as you grow. It's kind of an interesting thing to reflect back on.
Yeah, so do you feel like a lot of you start out as more generalist and you're taking on a number of different roles, and then as you grow you can then specialize? But do you sort of miss, like, as your team is growing, do you miss wearing as many hats, or do you like the fact that you can kind of narrow down and focus on something?
So it's not that we crunch, but we do a lot of hours in a day, and I've definitely found myself, again, we're having this conversation this morning, I guess those are the kind of conversations you have at GDC, like every time you come here you just reflect on what you're doing for the last year, and it's definitely more so, especially with the studio day-to-day running stuff, you kind of have to be super disciplined and organize your time, so it's like you still get to work on the game, but there's like very core hours throughout the day where you focus on it, and you have to be really present about how you're marketing the game and how you're coming across, because I think there's a lot of things that people kind of leave till the end, almost like the kind of natural things for a small team is to not have audio in-house and to contract it and throw it in the last second, and everyone knows that it's not the ideal situation. And the same with marketing, kind of having a core vision for what you want to do at the start of the project, because something we noticed on the start of our first game was that you get the advice, talk about your game early, talk about it often, and as you're trying to establish studio culture and just figure out how to even make a game with a small team, you kind of putting screenshots out and logos that may not necessarily representation of the final game. And when it comes to people reviewing your game and talking about your game, it's like, oh my god, they used a screenshot that's a year and a half old, and it's not necessarily representative, and you kind of get a mixed message after releasing your first game because the communication isn't on point. So with moving over to UE4 and our second game, we made the conscious choice to kind of stay quiet between, it must have been September 2015 up until maybe March of last year. So we stayed quiet for a really long time trying to just learn how to make characters, how to do AI, locomotion sets, and all this kind of like new technology skill set. But we had a clear focus when we went on to release the game, and it kind of a very clear communication there.
That's good. So you're here showcasing The Occupation, which is the trailer that we saw, and now it's described as a first-person, fixed-time investigative thriller. So what kind of experience does that mean for your players? Like, what kind of experience can your players expect from that? Or what does that mean for them?
Yeah, I guess it's something that is kind of inherently systemic, and that's the kind of game that we wanted to make from the beginning when we started thinking about The Occupation. So I guess the interesting thing about it is that because it's in real time, and we have essentially 8 NPCs that have their own personalities, their own wants and likes, and they're not just like copied NPC 1 or 2. It just means that players can essentially have the choice to maybe follow one of these NPCs and see what they like and dislike, see what their life is like, see how the overall story of the game affects them. Essentially have a very, I guess, narrow view of what's overall happening, because while you're looking at this one character that's simulating, the other 7 are also simulating at the same time, so you're kind of missing all of that. Yeah. So I guess it makes for it allows you to put the focus where you want, but at the same time it also means that you have a very narrow-minded, I guess, view of what's happening. And I think when you go and talk with another friend that's played the game and he's followed these other 3 characters that you didn't follow, just the disparity between your understanding, I guess, of the story is I think going to be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think the kind of main approach that we took was, like, we're all huge fans of the very systemic games, immersive sim-style games like Thief, Dishonored, Deus Ex, and knowing that we could do those kind of systems with, very quick iteration on like the blueprint side of things in Unreal, because we're a very design and art focused studio, not very code heavy. So us allowing to get those systems up and running, we wanted to make that a focus of the game's design. And just figure out, okay, what is it when you remove kind of weapons and RPG fantasy elements from these games? What can we get into that communication? As James said, we kind of doubled down on who the NPCs were in the world and gave them like the core traits, and they all have jobs to do, and if they drink too much coffee, they'll go and use the bathroom, and you kind of taking advantage of those things in the game kind of leads to different opportunities, like James said, with the kind of following the different paths. And that's the thing that we're really interested in, especially when focusing on strong narrative arc, because our first game dealt with mental illness, and when we started prototyping that, it was more sci-fi in nature. And I remember the day where we just like, okay, if we're going to tackle these topics, we need to, do them justice and really make that a core focus. So kind of we went with a more political angle with this game, and it's a really interesting thing when you hear a story and told from two different perspectives. It can be framed very differently. Yeah. And so that lends itself into the kind of systemic, kind of emergent gameplay where you can follow different paths and just have a very different view of the world events there.
Now the game is literally like 4 hours, right? No more, no less. So how did you make the decision to like time limit your game like that?
So, in all honesty, when we were talking about this before, and I can't remember the day when we decided to make it a fixed time. It just felt like a natural thing, because if we want to focus on kind of the NPC behavior, the people in the world, well, we're not going to be able to create hours and hours of content because we're a team of 10. So it's like, okay, well, if we know we only have, X amount of hours of gameplay, and we can make that gameplay experience really strong, and kind of focus on people doing believable things and interacting with each other and having conversations. If the game was an hour long, you made us miss a bunch of things, and if it was 10 hours long, we'd need a team of 50 to try and write a bunch of narrative and content. Right. So I think it was just born from constraints, and it just turned into this interesting constraint for our design process and how we approached everything, and it knew we could build a world around that and make it feel like an interesting play experience. So I wish I had a way smarter and well planned out answer for that, but it was just born from constraint, which a lot of our design stuff is.
I think also because it's a immersive sim without any kind of violence or any kind of fail state in terms of death. Having time as a factor meant that how you use your time wisely is really important. So say if you get caught, you lose an amount of time within the game worlds that you could have found information. So it kind of makes it very important how you use that time within the world.
I think when you use time as a constraint, you need to kind of make the mechanics and systems revolve around that key constraint. So we were struggling with that for quite a while. Okay, so if you can't lose health and you can't run out of ammo, what is the thing that kind of creates that player challenge, and the loss of time and making that feel like a really important thing? Like, oh damn, I missed that meeting because I got caught somewhere where I shouldn't have been. Yeah. Like, just from seeing people play test, and it's like they start the game, it's like, right, you've got a meeting in 30 minutes. People are like, right, I've got to go and find the room where we have that meeting, I've got to get planned, and I've got to get my notes ready, like what questions am I going to ask? And people just kind of role play that scenario. And you think in a video game, something is, oh, you've got to go to a meeting in 30 minutes isn't inherently an interesting thing, but seeing people kind of gravitate towards that stuff is really cool.
That's awesome. So, previously you wrote an educational blog discussing your layered approach to AI locomotion, and you made mention that you have more content on the way. So what else is on the horizon as far as educational tools or resources for your fellow community members?
So I guess this comes from me and OJ lecturers at university as well back home. And one of the things that we've always been interested in is education and just putting stuff out there for people to learn, essentially. I guess because there wasn't that much information about like the overall animation systems and stuff, we were really struggling with that part of the game specifically when we started making it. It made sense for us to put it out there so that people don't have the same type of struggle that we had, right? So also that kind of started leading into a conversation within the studio, and as a team we started deciding, well, we are doing a lot of things that I think would be kind of interesting, maybe even in case we're doing them wrong and things like that. So it's kind of a conscious thing that we want to do. We want to actually create content and maybe more educational type of tutorial stuff of the systems and things that we have within the occupation, to actually put them out there and have people pick them apart and learn from it, whether it's like a good or a bad thing type of thing. So yeah, we're looking forward to creating more of this kind of stuff and maybe even packaging it with the game.
Oh, okay. With
so
the game?
We're trying to kind of figure out that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting kind of layer, I guess, to the game, and the way we're approaching development is we have education in mind as we're going through it.
Yeah, I guess just following up on that, we started prototyping the game from thinking about, okay, what's on the Unreal roadmap, and coming to events like GDC, it's like, okay, Unreal focusing on this sequencer tool, and they've got this AI behavior tree stuff, and we built a lot of the game's features around skill sets that we knew were going to be in Unreal Engine, and so we spent maybe 9 to 12 months just learning. We weren't focusing on an end game in mind, and so we feel like we've learned a lot of kind of quick tips and things that would help small teams develop, because you started as the kind of small student independent team, and then you see these teams making their second and third games, and you don't see as many games kind of focusing on AI Locomotion, for example. So we kind of wanted to document that, create videos and resources for that, and it seemed to get a lot of traction in the Unreal community. So anything we can kind of create for free and write down, document, and just share our process will help the entire community create better games, hopefully.
Yeah, that's really wonderful. Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing that. We're going to wrap you up, but do you have any updates on when we might be able to get our hands on the occupation?
So we're not too sure yet, because we don't want to say a release date in mind. It will definitely be this year, and it depends on the platforms that we're coming to. But if you just go to our website, follow our social media, we're out there, we're communicating, and if you're interested, just stay in touch and sign up to the newsletter, and we'll update.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing your game later this year. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Cheers.
So next up, we're going to have the wonderful fellas from Polyart Games. We're going to show their launch trailer up on the screen for Moss. Hi.
Your time has come at last, dear reader. But this story is not yours alone. No, it is tied to another.
The darkwood falls before me, with broken bough and blackened leaf. I stand where trees meet with the sky, and in the stillness find you by. When all the paths are overgrown, and evening falls with crimson cloud, into the forest I will fly, and in its shadow find you
Your bond with Quill grows strong, and the journey you take together could change the fate of both our worlds. Shall we begin?
So that was Moss. So first of all, I'd like to welcome Danny and Chris to the stage. Would you like to introduce yourselves real quick and tell us sort of what you do at Polyarc Games?
My name's Danny, and I am the design director, and I helped found Polyarc, I guess. But yeah, mostly spent my time doing design and project lead.
My name is Chris Alderson. I'm another founder and the art director of Moss.
So before we get going, they brought me this.
Aha.
Oh, I need to cover it with my hand. This adorable figurine, which I really want one. Hint, hint. So we're gonna give it away, but can any of you tell me the name of this adorable mouse? Do any of you know?
Boom.
This is
we got a winner.
Winner.
It's Quill. Quill is this adorable mouse figurine.
Nice
so there
work.
you are.
Congratulations.
You were paying attention. Oh, that's
nice. Awesome. Cool.
Yay! Good thing.
Large applause all around.
So at Polyarc Games, a number of you have worked together previously before forming Polyarc. What projects were you all a part of?
So primarily all of us worked, or not all of us, but a majority of the studio all worked together on Destiny.
Oh, wow.
And so that was our last project where we all sort of met and started collaborating, and yeah, that was the last thing. But mostly from Bungie, and then we have some other people from like Epic and ArenaNet and BioWare, and then so we've all kind of come from similar backgrounds, and so we all had similar language, and that's sort of how that started.
Nice. So what was it like transitioning from these like large studios to setting up your own independent studio?
Yeah, it's just a much more intimate environment. You find that you don't need to set up meetings to sort of like collaborate and get together. Just we're naturally doing it just by having those conversations together and hanging out in the same room. It definitely has a family-esque vibe. Like everything we're doing, making the game, whether it's long hours or having fun, everyone's involved, and it's a really fun collaborative sort of environment at Polyarc.
Yeah, it's really one of the cool things you get in a smaller scale studio is the ability to take an idea, share it with people, and get it in the game very quickly. And so you spend a lot more time looking at the ideas in the game rather than talking about the ideas and that. And so that's probably been one of the biggest things, along with what Chris said, in sort of this like intimate family atmosphere that we've enjoyed from working in a small studio.
That's great. So when you first started, did you all know that you wanted to make a game in VR?
Yeah, absolutely. That was part of the plan when we started Polyarc was there is a new way to interact with software, and there's a new way to meet characters that you make and be in the places, and all of that got us creatively excited to try new things.
Yeah, just from the first demos that we tried out, we just knew that VR is something we had to be a part of. It's just this, you play the very first demo and all these ideas just start spawning, and you just have to at least try it. You have to just like start experimenting. And I mean, personally, the first time you're like make an environment and then you're within it is a really magical experience. So I knew I was sold. So yeah, it's something we knew we had to kind of delve into and seek out further.
So tell us a little more about Moss. We watched the trailer, but how did you come up with this idea?
So Moss and Quill spawned from sort of the constraints that came with VR in general. It was our goal to make sure that we were making a game for the platform and taking advantage of the platform, but also embracing its constraints. And so where we started was we wanted you to be able to physically interact with this world and physically interact with the character. And so really those constraints were the beginning of Moss. And then we started layering on the aesthetic and the theme and the character based off of those constraints. So we wanted someone to be, if you wanted you to interact with the character, that meant it couldn't be giant, and that also meant that you couldn't be far away from it. So that got us into that little diorama scale where you would just have to like interact with the things close to you, but we didn't want to make you reach really far. And so then that's how Quill came, because we kind of had a couple options. You could either be like a toy, it could be an alien, or it could be a rodent. And we all got really excited about like playing with rodents.
She's really adorable, and I think it's actually something that makes it very endearing. So like when I first played the demo at E3 last year, I got very protective of her. Like I would reach out in front of things and I would try to like hit things. I'm like, oh no, I have to make her attack it. But I wanted to like, no, I must save her. So I think you did a wonderful job. Like letting your...
we knew we wanted to make an environment that you had connected with, like that you could reach out and grab. we knew that it was a very novel experience in VR to when a character looks at you in the eyes and you're there and you feel like it knows your presence.
Yeah.
We didn't expect the amount of connection that people truly felt, like protecting her or like actually thinking she's there. Like we've seen people talk to her even though you kind of are the one guiding her with your controller.
Mm-hmm.
When she dies, people get emotional, and that's something that we really like. We found that out during E3, how people really connected with Quill, and so throughout the last part of production, we really doubled down on that aspect of connecting with Quill as a character.
So you actually play as the reader.
Yep.
So how did you come up with that idea, and how that inspired like the story?
So one of the cool things about VR is that now we have the ability to put you in the world. And once you do that, we got really excited about making you not only a camera, but a character within the world. Mm-hmm. And for us, that meant that you need to be able to see yourself. We always like talk about in like Mario 64 how you could look in the mirror and you see the guy floating with the camera on the cloud, and that like somehow brought you into the world a little bit more. And so that's how we have the reflection. The idea was like in all the story moments and with Quill, like you're not just watching this all take place, you're a part of the story. And Chris talks a lot about how it's not just Quill discovering this new world because she's kind of been stuck in the village. It's also you as a player discovering this new world alongside her.
Yeah, the story, we really like the sort of adventurer's tale where you take a character and that's used to this like familiar world, and then you kind of like send her on this adventure into the unknown. And like Danny was saying, what's really awesome is you get to experience at the same time as Quill. And so all those feelings that she's feeling, you actually feel the same way. And so whenever we take you into like a darker part of the tale, maybe we take you into like a dark cave or something. And so we want Quill's emotional reactions to the world to sort of emulate and sort of like magnify and make you feel the same way she does. And so we do some tricks and stuff with the environment that way.
That's awesome. Do you have any advice for folks diving into VR development for the first time?
Yeah, I mean the biggest piece of advice I think we can give is that you should try everything at least 10 times. Like you're gonna do really cool things, but you're also gonna fail a lot, and you really need to keep trying and iterating in order to get something to feel the right way. And I think Danny can talk a little bit about every single device in our game. Like you're moving a statue that's supposed to be heavy, but in actuality, you're actually not lifting anything. And so there's different tricks that we do for that. And
yeah, the feedback loop in VR is very important because that's how you continually immerse them. So the sound needs to do it. The feedback of like the inertia and the physics and the movement, all of those things need to layer together to create one thing. And you're not going to get that right away. And so like you just need to start with something and then test it out, because you can't have any preconceived notions based off of previous game development. Most of the studios 10 plus years experience, and we all had to come in and say, we don't know how to make games in VR. We know how to make games, we don't know how to make games in VR. So let's find out the difference. And turns out it's very similar. The problems and the questions are the same. It's just that the answers to those and the solutions are different. And so you have to try to solve those problems, and don't be worried about failure, because that's just learning.
Yeah.
And so just don't look at it as a waste. Look at it as a way to like continue moving forward and find out better ways to do it, because everyone that's working in VR right now, they're no masters. It's been around for like 2 years, so you have to learn.
So how influential was your platform choice? So Moss is on PSVR on the game design elements, and with that, which came first, the game idea or the platform?
The platform definitely came first, as VR in general, and the ability. So it's very important to us that your hands are tracked. And so that was something that we said off the bat, was like our game needs tracked hand controllers, because that's the only way you can like reach into the environment. And so that totally informed every other decision we did when we said we're going to do a game for tracked controllers.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you all received an Unreal Dev Grant.
Yeah.
How did that influence like the development of Moss?
Yeah, I could talk about it. So when you're starting off as a small studio and you haven't, you're trying to figure out how you're going to fund your project. You're trying to figure out how are you going to hire top-tier talent. How are you going to do this? That takes time to network and recruit. We had like developer friends, but we didn't have a business network. And so during our first year, when we were working off of our savings and not really funded yet for Moss, there was a period of time where the Unreal Dev Grant actually got us to the point. It covered a gap where we didn't have funding. And then at the end of that gap, right when that money was getting down, we got our funding. And so without that, we actually wouldn't have been able to make Moss. Like that bridged almost like 2 months for us. So it was, we're very grateful for what
Moss
Epic
might
has
not
done.
exist without the dev grants.
Bold,
It's very
strong
important.
statement.
Wow. I feel like you guys would have powered through, but we're always excited to help.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was like,
Never
it was
know.
very helpful, and it sparked it inspired us just to keep going, because separate from the money aside, what it meant is that someone believed in what we were doing. And then like, it was a whole group of people that said, we like what you're doing, your little prototype that you make, we like what you're doing. We want to see more of that, and we want you to use our tools to do that. And it was awesome.
Awesome. Well, I want to congratulate you on all your success with
Thanks.
Moss.
Thank you.
It's a wonderful game, and we're really excited to see
Cool. Thank you so
the
much.
future of it and what all. So definitely go play it. It's in our booth at booth 801. They have a wonderful setup, and ask these guys all kinds of questions.
Yeah, we'll be there
Please
for
do.
another hour, I think, or something like that. We're going to hang out around there. And you can follow us at PolyArt Games. We do more giveaways a lot of the time if you're hunting for that cool figure. So follow us there, and we'll keep sharing information on what's coming next.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so
See ya.
much. So next up, thank you. We're bringing on Intel. So Kelly Gunn and Jeff Rue are going to come join me. Thank you. Hi. So Pete, Kelly, Jeff. Pete, Kelly, Jeff.
I got shotgun.
Yeah, you have to drive. All right. So welcome.
I broke the chair.
You breaking it?
Yeah.
You've been.
Okay. I broke it.
You've been here like 2 seconds, Pete.
I can't work like this.
That's why we can't have nice things.
This is bullshit. Sorry. 2 seconds.
Can't take you anywhere. All right. So we have Pete Nepley, one of our lead engineers at Epic Games, with us. And we've also brought Kelly Degan, a DevRel engineer from Intel, and Jeff Roos, a senior DevRel engineer from Intel. So we're excited to have you all on. I will ask you to behave for the remainder of my interview.
No.
So sort of introduce yourselves and what kinds of projects and things you typically work on.
I'm a technical lead on Fortnite Battle Royale. So our team kind of built Battle Royale starting back in September and helped kind of see it through, worked with the mobile team to just come out with the mobile release right before GDC. And before that, I worked on Unreal Tournament. I was the technical lead there. So I worked with Jeff and Kelly from Intel to kind of optimize the DM Underland map. That's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow at 10 a.m. So please come by and see my talk tomorrow at 10.
Hey, I'm Kelly. So Jeff Roos and I work generally with AAA studios or engines, in particular Unreal Engine, to help optimize their games and their hardware for Intel hardware. So we work on a bunch of different studios and games, but Unreal Engine's probably our favorite because you guys are wonderful.
Yeah, so like Kelly said, we work with engine providers and games. We've done a lot of work on various engine releases, like some of the new features in 4.19. We've got some exciting new features for developers, like a vTune integration, better threading, and then of course we're doing a lot of work on Fortnite, so you can have your game run better on all hardware, not just Intel's.
So what kinds of things are you all showing off this year?
So over at the Intel booth, just over there, we're showing off a particle system demo that shows the particle parameters, and it shows what you can get out of CPU particles if you want to use those. So things like casting light on the ground, particles bouncing, things you can't do with traditional GPU particles. So typically CPUs are underutilized in games, and so you can take advantage of those extra cycles to really show off better realism, and that's what we're showing. We're also showing Intel GPA, doing a Fortnite demo, and showing off how you profile your games using the tool, and what kinds of things you can find in there.
So with the 4.19 release, there's a number of features and improvements that you all have worked on. They're including like perf improvements for threading and cloth simulation. We can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So part of it is just a matter of like properly detecting your cores and making sure you have the right amount of threads. You know, you have so no one gets starved out. Making sure like we've done some optimizations to the cloth system in general that are pretty good looking actually. I highly recommend. We have a blog article about all of the changes we have in 4.19. That's on like Intel.com/GameDev.
Yeah, it's like software.intel.com/GameDev. Yeah, that's where you'd see it. It's like right at the front there.
That kind of details exactly what those performance implications are. But basically, you can have your games clothier than ever.
Yeah. So for 4.19, we improved the cloth system throughput by about 30%. So you can do more cloth things, like Kelly said, with more cores, and it looks better. Yeah.
More cloth.
More
That's what they're telling me.
Yeah.
So, and do you have all this information posted somewhere that folks can find out about how Intel is involved?
Absolutely. So you can check out a lot of these changes. If when you upgrade to 4.19, you're just going to automatically see the performance improvement. It's like we've just made the change to the engine. But if you want to get more detail on exactly kind of what happened and how we found those and worked on that, then yeah, that's more in our blog article at software.intel.com/GameDev.
Now you're talking about this, going back to your particle demo you mentioned. So it's combining CPU and GPU particles, right? So what is some of the advantages of blending these systems?
So typically game developers will use GPU particles to show sparks or something and explosions. And the benefit of having CPU particles with GPU particles is you get the benefits of GPU particles, so you can have lots of them. But with CPU particles, you can do things like cast light on the ground. So, for example, if you've got a rocket flying through the game, you can have it show up on the ground as it's flying over and cast light. And then when it explodes, you can have things fly out and bounce onto the ground. And it leads to a cooler effect. It's more than the sum of its parts. You can have lots of cool particles and also really realistic ones that you couldn't have otherwise.
It's kind of the best of both worlds, especially since most games tend to leave a lot of CPU headroom on the table. And Unreal actually really nicely integrates using CPU and GPU particles in the same system, so you can have that beautiful volume of sparks, but you have maybe some hero particles that are doing the bouncing and lighting that really kind of immerse you more in the game.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we mentioned the Intel GPA that's used in Fortnite. Would you explain that for folks that may not know what that means?
Sure. So Intel's GPA is Intel Graphics Performance Analyzers. We're actually going to be talking about them a little bit in our talk tomorrow. So it's actually what we used on Fortnite, which you can see over at our booth over there, in order to find kind of our biggest stalls, our biggest bottlenecks in graphics performance. They also have tools for CPU analysis, and frame capture is largely what we used. It's a really nice tool with a great UI that can get you quickly into your frame and seeing exactly what your bottleneck is, so you know where to focus your optimization efforts, because optimization without data can a lot of times just be chasing your tail.
Thanks. Now, you want to talk about your talk a little more and what kinds of things you've worked on as far as optimization with these lovely fellows in Fortnite?
Yeah, I mean, we've partnered with Intel to go over a lot of things like tick times and where we were hitting virtual memory boundaries we want to ship Fortnite on not only the high end, not only consoles, but also low end. So they really help us where we don't have domain experts on low end laptops. And they have showed us how to use GPA, how to use VTune, how to get in there and figure out, I know that the low-end laptop is going to be lower performance, but why is it lower, and what can we do? Where do we get the biggest bang for our buck in optimization? Where should we spend our time? We only have so many hours in the day. We need to spend them the most effectively we can.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a lot of different implications when you're optimizing for low-end hardware, just because you don't have enough power. So you need to be using that power really efficiently, and you're sharing a power budget between your CPU and GPU. So optimizations you make for one and the other are going to help both systems out. So a lot of what we did when looking at some of those older systems for Fortnite is making sure, yeah, we're fitting within our memory budgets, figuring out where you can trade off systems, how to reduce some of that CPU workload, and while still maintaining like the visual integrity of the game, because Fortnite has a very signature feel, and we want to preserve that.
That's true. So that talk tomorrow, they're gonna be. It's called Forts and Fights, from fun size to full size, scaling Fortnite and Unreal Tournament with Unreal Engine. So it's a mouthful, but that's tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Kelly's name.
We got a little crazy with the alliteration.
Yeah, I mean, it does cover a lot of things. It's going to start out with talking about how to choose the right scalability targets so that you can go from low end to high end with the same exact game, just like we kind of have mobile on high-end PCs, and we have it on mobile. So it goes from the entire spectrum, and how to set that up so that you can work and not have a crazy workflow. And then we kind of have a second part that goes through, once you know where your targets are, where should you spend your time to get from, hey, I don't fit in memory, hey, I don't fit in CPU, hey, I don't fit in GPU, to, hey, we fit perfectly now, and where to make cuts, where to investigate, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's a lot of general advice for indie developers or anyone else using Unreal. Using the inbox Unreal tools and also the Intel tools to figure this out. So a lot of the advice you can use for just about any title out there.
And I know you all mentioned you had some optimization papers that folks could use.
We do. So we have a kind of a running Unreal Engine optimization guide, and this isn't specific to Intel hardware, although of course like a lot of these things we found while optimizing for Intel hardware, but we fully believe in the rising tide raising all boats. So I highly recommend you check it out. Again, it's on that same website, software.intel.com/gamedev, and it's like a 5-part series now.
4-part, 5th part coming soon.
All right. And it goes over a lot of different systems and kind of your approach to optimization when you're working with Unreal, because Unreal has a lot of amazing tools, and sometimes you just need that extra push to make sure that they're doing their best for you.
All right. Well, great. That's all my questions for you. Do you have any last things or notes you would like to share with the UE dev community?
I just want to give a shout out to the Fortnite BR team and the rest of the Fortnite team.
All right.
Yeah, I just want to thank these guys. They made an awesome game. It's been an honor working with them on it, and excited to keep going.
All right.
Yeah, this has been a really cool engagement. Working on site with these guys has been a lot of fun. Working on a game that a lot of people see, and your changes are very impactful. It's awesome, and working with all game developers is fun. Coming to GDC is it helps refresh and reinvigorate you to really keep going with it. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here working with Epic, and it's just been awesome.
Aw, well, we love working with you guys. So. Yay. Big happy family. So thank you all for coming. We enjoyed having you. And with me next, we're going to have Vince Mohan from Wardrum. We're going to be talking about Ark Survival Evolved Mobile, and we have a lovely trailer to play on that. Thank you guys. It's okay. I guess here we are. So again, welcome. It's Vince, and tell us what you do at Wardrum.
I am one of the 11 developers at Wardrum Studios. We all wear a lot of different hats there. I'm an associate producer. I'm a quality assurance lead, and I do all the audio as well.
All right, so that's a number of different titles. How do you like being on a small team and having all these different roles?
I love it. The work is never the same day to day. It's always a new challenge, always a new puzzle to solve, always something to figure out. And the team camaraderie is also a lot of fun too.
Nice. So did you work on ARC, like main game?
Oh, no. We did not work on the main core game of ARC. Studio Wildcard contracted us to put it on mobile devices.
Okay. And so were you previously familiar with developing for mobile?
Yeah. We've done quite a few titles on mobile in the past. We put Grand Theft Auto 3, Vice City, San Andreas, Max Payne, and Bully on phones as well.
Oh, nice.
We also have some of our own in-house games. We have a mini golf game with turtles called Turtle Tumble. We have a space strategy game called Orlux, which also has a sequel called Orlux Constellations. We've done some other games on Xbox in the past as well. So we've kind of branched out all over the place.
Nice.
But mobile's our bread and butter.
Loving it. So what is it like bringing, when you take a large game, especially a game like ARC, and bring it to mobile? Like, what is that process like? And
well, it's pretty similar to optimizing for a PC. We have to target a large range of devices, a large swath of players, and kind of fine-tune for those devices. So you look at PC development, you have to look at all different video cards, different configurations like that. And mobile's the same thing. There's a wide swath of iOS devices that have different RAM, different kind of internal parts. And you also have a lot of Android devices, which is kind of the same thing. You have to really deal with permutations and all the challenges of working on that. And also dealing with the touch interface. Because with touch controls, you really have to think about the mantra of never looking at the fingers. Because when you're looking at your fingers, you're distracted by the game world itself. So we try really hard to put as many minimalistic UI as possible. So less buttons and less things to clutter the screen up to kind of force the player to interact with the game world instead.
Gotcha. So in ARC, you're bringing 50 players into a single environment.
Yep.
How did you achieve that?
Well, thankfully, the UE4 code base and the ARC original code base helped us a lot there. We had a lot of optimizations already in place that we were able to scale back to 50. It was a modest goal to go for 50, and we're really hoping to have more at some point in future development.
Yeah. So for other developers using Unreal Engine for mobile development, like what would you share with them, or what kind of techniques and approaches should they take?
Keeping your material complexity down. ARC Mobile runs on less than 50 materials across the entire game. When mobile devices have to switch between shaders a lot, it really is hard on performance. So by only using that few materials, we have a lot of extra room to blow up the performance and scalability of the game.
Any other things that were key in helping that?
Yeah. It really comes down to, like I said, material complexity.
Okay.
It's all about not using the taxing of the engine on that versus using it other places.
Okay. So ARC Mobile is sort of setting a standard for the future of mobile gaming.
Thank you.
It is an amazing game. Where do you think we're going to see mobile go from here?
Well, we started with the Unreal Codebase 4.5 and we merged to 4.17 at this point, and that has allowed us to do a lot more on devices that we couldn't do before. So you notice there are games like Fortnite and stuff as well that are actually able to run on devices now because the technology supports it. So I can easily see a world where AAA games can be on mobile very easily now.
Yeah. So do you think we're going to see like more high fidelity open world experiences?
Absolutely. And the real trick is just kind of thinking about the psychology of the game, like I was saying with the controls. You really want the player to engage with the world, not think about touching a screen, because sometimes touch controls can be off-putting for players. But if you teach them certain inputs and teach them certain gestures, and that's universal across the game, it's really easy for players to forget that they're on a touch screen.
All right. So as we'll go back. So you were wearing a number of different hats. Yeah. So what's it like? What are each of those roles like?
Well, when we first started ARC, it was a lot of optimization and asset reduction, getting the assets to fit on a file size that's allowable on mobile devices because they're very stringent about that. It requires 2 gigs on iOS, and I think it's 3 gigabits of RAM on Android. So you have to have a pretty VC device to run it. But what devices have become to a point now where they're so powerful, they're basically little computers, so that they can actually handle the game very well.
All right, nice. What kind of, you mentioned being an audio designer. What designs do you get to do? Because it is a pre-existing game. Is it more the UI elements? Or
well, everything we've added into the game, we've had new structures and premium structures that have their own unique sounds that I've made. But other stuff in the game is more like asset reduction. Like the original ARC has a really long, beautiful 6-minute ambience of rain, which doesn't really fit on mobile devices with a file size. So I had to snip it down to like 20 seconds and making sure it loops properly. And it's a lot of parsing down the sounds and using the same sounds for multiple creatures that already kind of sounded similar, so we kind of merge them together. So just for file size purposes, because audio is pretty expensive in that department.
Okay. when will folks be able to get their hands on ARC Mobile?
Our closed beta started yesterday, actually, so it's officially out in the world for some people.
Mhm.
We are hoping to roll it out slowly, more and more and more, as we're figuring out the server issues and everything that's going on there. But so far, well, it's been really, really well. We're aiming for iOS and Android release by summer.
That would be awesome. I hope so. And where can folks get more information about it?
You can go to playarc.com/mobile to sign up for the closed beta. You can check our Survive the Arc Twitter page, and anything at Wardrobe Studios is on our Facebook too. Facebook and Twitter, excuse me.
Awesome. And we actually have it available to play in our booth, so if you want to go check it out, again, it's booth 801. And
Over on the Unreal Dev Lounge, we got it on the iPhone X, we got it on the 2 iPad Pros, and the Razer phone.
Oh, nice. So do you feel like the experiences differ being on an iPad? Or?
Nope, not at all. It's a one-for-one experience. And it's very comparable to retail as well. Everything that we had to take out and mobilize, we added something to compensate for it. So our version doesn't have the boss fights in the game, but we've added what we call pursuits. And these pursuits are like a quest players can do that still give them the similar rewards to the boss fights as well. So we don't ever want to take something away from the players. We want to give something back to make considerations for mobile.
That's awesome. Well, that's all I have.
Awesome.
Do you have anything you would like to add or share about mobile development?
Like she said, we're in booth 801. Please come play the game. Please see how well it runs on phones. I'm really excited for players to keep playing the game. We're loving the community so far and the feedback we've heard.
Good.
And we can't wait to hear what you guys think about ARC.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ben.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
All right. So next up, we have Jeff and Max from NXL Entertainment, and they're going to come talk about The Bard's Tale. So if we can show their trailer, give you a peek at that.
What are you looking at?
Welcome back. All right, so welcome to the stage. We have a surprise guest. David could make it today. So, wearing a kilt. And would you please go down the line and tell us a little about yourselves and introduce yourself, what you do.
Okay, I'm Max Kaufman. I'm the art director. I've been working on a lot of games in the past that are more like first-person shooters, and then more recently at An Exile doing a lot of turn-based games and stuff like that. So I'm not holding it up high enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm David Rogers. I'm the lead designer and creative director of The Bard's Tale 4, Borrows Deep. And I guess the thing about me that I'll add is I'm so jazzed about this game because I'm like a lifelong turn-based strategy fan, and this is like a dream game for me to make. So I'm super excited to talk about it.
Jeff Pellegrin, producer of Mage's Tale and Bard's Tale. Been with Exile for 2 years, and I worked with these guys on Mage's Tale, and now we're working together on Bard's Tale.
Excellent. So The Bard's Tale has a long history. So what sets The Bard's Tale 4 apart from its predecessors?
Well, The Bard's Tale 4 comes 30 years after the release of Bard's Tale 3, so
Right.
obviously a profound amount has changed. But we really looked at the core of what made the Bard's Tale such an enduring series. It sort of founded the RPG genre. Anyone old enough remembers playing it on like the old Apple IIs, or even I think it even had an original Nintendo release. But we took the core of what it was, building your party, coming up with a battle plan, sending them into battle, iterating, solving puzzles, and saving the world. And we just took modern design philosophy, looking at games like Hearthstone, Duelist, Darkest Dungeon, things like that, and brought that into the Bard's Tale.
And the latest technology. We also look at it like this could be Bard's Tale 10, because it was so long ago that it first came out, and now we're making a version. So we think about, what would those iterations have been And that's kind of where we are now.
Well, and then one of the things you notice most acutely, like on that point, is just how amazing it looks. We kept, like in classic dungeon crawler fashion, we kept things in first person. So when you're like solving puzzles or reading lore, or you're staring down the barrel of a monster, it's really intimidating and it looks glorious. The dungeons look dank and dark, and the castles look glorious.
So there's a loose story in the Bard's Tale world, and in 4 you've kept a lot of those original characters and world elements, but how have you expanded and shaped the world for, modern audiences?
Well, in previous Bard's Tales, you were more or less confined to Skara Brae, and Skara Brae's still there, but in the events of Bard's Tale 3, it was leveled by the Mad God Tarjan. And so now you get to explore the old destroyed ruins of Skara Brae as a dungeon, and if you have the old maps from 30 years ago, they still work. And then you get to explore the new Skara Brae that's built atop it. You get to go to old classic areas like Kylo Ren's Tower and Harkon's Castle. But if you're a new player, you get to discover the whole world all over again. And you get to discover like fresh for the first time, because it's 100 years in the future since Bard's Tale 3.
Okay.
So everyone's going to have to rediscover the world of Skara Brae.
And it was only 30 years ago for real time.
We went to Scotland as well, and actually went to Skara Brae. And then we traveled throughout Scotland, got a lot of reference material and stuff like that. And there was this one place called Mary King's Close that I actually missed while I was taking pictures. And the guys made fun of me. But that was kind of the inspiration for the whole idea of Skara Brae, the new Skara Brae being built on top of the old one. Because like cities on top of cities in Europe and stuff like that.
Excellent.
And you get to explore much further than you ever have before. So we get to explore not just the city, but like the boggy marshes of the Baitish lowlands. You get to go to the sort of like craggy winter wasteland of the Stronsea Isles, and you get to go to these lush forests. And all of that is thanks to just the graphical power that the engine gives us.
So I wanted to ask, so Bard's Tale 4 was successfully funded by a Kickstarter. So what is the impact of being a crowdfunded project and having that like ongoing feedback from your community?
So just real quick, I know Max can answer this because he was part of the campaign, but unfortunately I wasn't. The crowdfunding titles that we have give us more freedom, since we we don't have to do a traditional publisher deal. It gives a lot of freedom and choices. So Max, I'm sure you can talk about that campaign and the inspirations that we got from our Kickstarter community as well.
Well, I mean, with the campaign, we really try to pay homage to the old games. And so throughout the campaign and the way that we structured it, it was to take ideas from the old games and then bring them to a new game. I think really for Kickstarter funders, it's the idea of being part of making something happen that couldn't happen through traditional means. But then on top of that, we integrate and we listen to the community and we adjust and change, and it really helps us in development as well.
Do you have any examples of some elements that sort of became a part of the game from their feedback?
Oh, sure. Well, so on one hand, like a lot of like key metrics about the game, how many party members you wanted to have, they were like, no, we have to have 6. We were like playing with smaller numbers for a whole bunch of just like, game design reasons. We have to have 6. That was what was in the Bard's Tale. That's what I remember. And we're like, all right, we're going to make it work. And it's nice because we would propose an idea, they would give feedback, but ultimately people were putting their money where their mouth was. They said, yes, we want this game. We want to make this game. Would you like to buy it? And the Kickstarter community says, yes, so much so, here's the money right now, and then it's just up to us to make it. And so having that early feedback, and then it sets the direction very early, so we know we have a steady path to tread.
But then there's things like grid-based movement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so like we have so many legacy items like grid-based movement that we had to bring back because we have so many old school fans that remember the old game so fondly. And so we had to apply nodes to the whole world so you could walk around through grid-based. We're having to do things like hardcore mode where we shut off auto mapping, because that's a really big part of the old Bard's Tale series, was having to draw the maps out yourself like you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Right.
So one of our physical goods is actually grid paper for that reason.
And we even have like the high-end backers whose characters will be in, their faces will be in the game. So
that's fun.
Yeah, a little bit more on the production side on the digital goods is actually, we had a lot of rewards that were actually Kickstarter backers designed puzzles, weapons, even music that went into the game as well.
That's awesome. It's really great how you listen to them and take advantage of that. So, character classes are sort of well established in RPGs. What unique elements are you bringing to set your character classes apart from ones that have existed or
Well, so we're going with a fewer number of character classes, and those character classes have a lot more room for customization.
Okay.
Each character archetype has 4 to 6 subclasses that you can mix and match with. But one of the really key elements is that you're not just building one character, you're building an entire party of characters. And so you're customizing not just one guy, but you're figuring out how can I build my practitioner to synergize with my fighter, and how can that play off these bard songs that I've specialized into. And so you sort of have to think of your party as your character collectively. And so it gets, if you really like nitty-gritty character customization and finding those synergies and combos, that's what the Bard's Tale is all about, because you have so many different characters you get to play with.
Yeah, one of the craziest things is that each class has like 4 to 6 subclasses, and so I just wanted 6 bards. They're all drunken brewmasters, and just like a '90s boy band, just going retired.
And that's totally valid. You could totally pull that off. You can make your D&D party if you want. That's just all dwarven fighters. Or you can have an '80s hair metal band that adventures through the world of Scarborough.
Right.
That's awesome. So, what made you decide to use UE4 for your development? Was your team already familiar with the engine, or?
Ignacio had used UE4 a while back on a couple of other titles, and then we were using Unity. And then when it came to this project, we sat down and discussed it, and we really liked what UE4 had to offer, and just the ability to customize so many different aspects of the engine, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. So that really was part of what drove us, and also the visual fidelity. We liked the renderer in UE4.
Well, your game is certainly very beautiful, and you've spent a lot of time developing the look and the feel. And what was kind of your process there?
It's a combination of things. We did do a lot of research. We did do some photogrammetry, and because we are a small team, we also looked to the kind of what's out there as far as assets on the marketplace and stuff like that to help kind of fill the void of not having, say 100 artists. So I think using Unreal and using the marketplace and the assets and stuff, and then just the idea of kind of making a magical, kind of bright and exciting world.
That's awesome.
It's also, we had a very easy to access new talent, because so many people knew Unreal 4. So when we staffed up, it was easy to grab people that were already masters with the engine.
Awesome. So are you all going to be hosting an alpha or a beta for players?
So this weekend, or this week, we released our alpha playable.
Oh,
so about 150 or so of our most elite backers got Steam keys, and then people on the show floor are lucky enough to be able to play the very first playable of the Bard's Tale for the first time. And then later down the road, we already promised our Kickstarter backers, which is a much wider group of them, beta access, which will be a little bit meatier than what we're showing here. We planned for about 15 minutes of content. Turns out it was more like 45. Whoops. But the next one's going to be even meatier. We'll probably plan for 2 hours and on it being 6.
I kind of feel it's like an amuse-bouche of the game. Just a small taster of the game itself.
Thanks for that. By the way, correction, it's 650 people got it.
Oh, that's way more.
Yep.
It's a little different. But do you have an estimate of when the player base at large can have the Bard's Tale 4 in their hands?
This year.
This year. All right. Coming later this year. So in the meantime, where can folks go to get more information and keep an eye on for updates?
So they can go to our Kickstarter page, which has our frequent updates. However, if they want to back the game now, they can go to CrowdDocs and just look up Bard's Tale 4, and they can pledge and back the game early now and still get some of those rewards.
Oh, wow.
So, and we also have Facebook and Twitter and all social media.
Excellent. So thank you all. Make sure if you're in the area, go to booth 801. You can get access to the first playable of Bard's Tale 4. We appreciate you all coming by and spending some time with us so much. And I'm really excited to see your future developments. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. And so that's it for our Unreal Engine live stream for now, or for GDC, the GDC special event. We're going to be jumping off. We're going to start up our Learning Theater talk, so please stay tuned. We have a lot of fantastic talks going on this afternoon, and we thank you all for tuning in.